Welcome to the Thunder and Lightning Show. Today we have another round of Major Ryan's battle briefing. Is that correct, Major Ryan?
That is correct, Major John. This evening we'll bring you another exciting battle report, tell you about the status belli, and before we kick off, I wrote a song, okay, because this program is going to be about schism. And so I've been practicing, writing this song, and I wanted to perform it for everybody. So let me get my pitch correct.
So we have a Thunder and Lightning exclusive. Sorry to interrupt you, Ryan. Thunder and Lightning exclusive song.
Yeah.
Tune in anywhere else, you wouldn't hear this. Okay?
You're not going to hear this anywhere else. Here we go. It's beginning to look a lot like schism everywhere you go. Take a look at the jab mandates. They're threatening once again with interdicts and suspensions to throw. It's beginning to look a lot like schism. Purge in every church. But the ugliest sight to see is your diocese to be when you've got no priests. So that's just the first two verses. I haven't written the rest. But that summarizes what we're going to talk about. It's beginning to look a lot like schism. It's actually already here. We just haven't had anybody recently, okay, come out of the closet, so to speak, pull out the card. I don't have a card here. Pull out the card and say schism declared. But it's happening by the end of the year. It's going to happen. And we'll get to that point here towards the end. Just towards the end of this segment. But the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about this is I had made this comment in an email to you and Brett about last week when it became news that Tomato Supich in Chicago are mandating the jab for employees plus clergy. So they have 5 weeks after the FDA approved the jab, which was Monday. So 5 weeks from now, the mandate is you either need to get this jab or get a medical exemption, or there will be disciplinary action. We don't know what that is, but basically, what kind of disciplinary action can you give to a priest besides kicking him out? I mean, you're not going to lower his salary. He doesn't make any money anyway. You're not gonna. Are you gonna take away PTO? They don't have any vacation time hardly at all anyway. They're not gonna pull his health care. Are they gonna make him park far away in the parking lot? I don't know.
They'll make him say more prayers. Oh no.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, yeah, that'd be good. I hope there's more punishments. But
yeah,
we have a situation here where, depending on what diocese you're in, there's different. This jab thing is completely, and the virus thing's totally different. Let's take a look at this. So you saw the bishops of Colorado came out with that one statement. They said, oh, yeah, we're going to give you a religious exemption for the jab. So that's one situation, or state or diocese. But then there's another diocese that won't give any religious exemption. For example, Chicago, New York, I think San Francisco is one of them. So this brings up a question here. If one diocese gives a religious exemption and another diocese will not give a religious exemption, doesn't that mean that they aren't even the same religion? Because if one says this is part of the religion, diametrically opposed, and the other one says, no, this is against the religion, so much so that you need to object, how are these the same religion? This is the definition of schism right here, when you don't have a consistent morality even within different dioceses.
Well, and I do want to add the bishops of South Dakota also were with the bishops of Colorado in rejecting the jab mandate. So there's two dioceses or two states right there full of bishops who are on the good side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you have a really good point there, and I don't know how you reconcile it. Like,
It's as if one diocese is saying abortion is evil and another one is saying abortion is good.
Yeah, that's the primary reason why the bishops of the diocese rejected, requirements, mandates, because of the abortion, the association of abortion. But even then, I don't know that those bishops would necessarily agree if you had a jab, which I think there were supposed to be some that didn't have abortion associated with them.
They're not out yet.
Okay,
in America.
Okay, so if those do come out, then I don't know that the bishops, like Strickland released something where he said, everyone should have the freedom to decide for themselves, their own health, situation or their own health decisions. So there would still be bishops that are saying, yeah, this isn't required, and so I don't know. It's a very weird scenario, I guess. I mean, you have bishops that are banning the Latin Mass, you have bishops that are mandating the jab, and I made a point in one of my videos where I said, what if Supich, this was an idea of his, because he didn't ban any Latin Masses yet, as far as I know. What if this is his, I guess, scheme to stomp out the traditionalists without banning the Latin Mass?
It's an interesting scheme. But the thing is, it goes far beyond traditionalist, because I can guarantee you that there are probably at least 20% of his priests, even Novus Ordos, who are anti-jab.
Yeah.
And if he only and they're not going to back down because they have a religious reason for not getting the jab. So again, you see two different religions here. Well, there's actually three, because there's some priests who have the faith, or maybe they don't have the faith, but they don't care. Then there's some who certainly don't have the faith and they're pro-jab. And then there's some number that really do have the faith and they're anti-jab. So I'd say that there's 20% completely, at least 20% completely against the jab. There's probably like 40 or 50% who are like in love with the jab. The jab is their savior. They pray to the jab. They offer mass to the jab. And then, I don't know, there's 10% in there who are brain dead, who are watching cartoons or whatever, or playing golf, and they don't know anything. They don't even know. They're like Joe Biden's. They have no idea what's going on. But if Tomato only loses 5% of his priests, that's a tremendous knock. There's a tremendous knock-on effect there, because you're already strung out completely with the staffing of your parishes. You don't have any priests. In today's Novus Ordo, you have a tremendous priest shortage. And I just think that this is, Tomato in his diocese is going to cause lawsuits with the lay employees. They're going to sue him. And you know how bishops hate lawsuits. They always lose. And it's going to cause a large number of defections from the clergy they'll either become conscientious objectors, or they'll resign or take a suspension and go into limbo. So Tomato does not win this battle at all. He loses. And again, I don't know what his auxiliaries think, if Perry is pro or anti-jab, but we know Perry is a traditionalist. So wouldn't it be, he could get, well, is he going to get suspended? I honestly don't know what's going on here. We'll get to that later. What do priests want to do with their lives? Because it doesn't look like right now they're too interested in standing up to anybody. They're just a package of wet noodles that just go boop, and that's what they do.
Yeah, like, they ask themselves, what should I have for breakfast this morning? Well, let me call it Chancery. See what they have to say.
Yeah.
Like,
do I have permission to have butter on my toast this morning? Oh, Bishop.
I don't know. I'm out of words. Like,
this is clown. Steve Cunningham at Census Fidelium calls it Clown Planet. That's where we are, Clown Planet.
No, for sure. So you were planning on getting to the bishop, the obedience thing later on in the show?
Well, yeah, there's a couple other things here.
All right.
I want to talk about, here, more schism. more different diocesan policies about the Mass of the Ages. Take a look at a really good diocese in America, and that's Syracuse. They have a young bishop, Lucia, whatever his name is. He's only 2 years old as a bishop. In life, he's like 52. But he was appointed by Francis, so somehow he snuck through. They got a good bishop. But they have expanded their diocesan Latin masses. They opened up a new shrine exclusively for the Old Mass. Their bishop actually went there on Assumption Day and celebrated the Pontifical Mass to inaugurate the chapel. And so he's been a guy who's done a really positive movement, edict for his diocese. But contrast that with, for instance, Costa Rica, again, apparently in the same Catholic Church, and they've completely banned the Old Mass. As a matter of fact, they've even banned the new Mass in Latin, which is, again, it's so schismatic, but nobody in the mainstream wants to say that. I have to say it. They're schismatic. Costa Rica is in schism from the Roman Catholic Church, and nobody there, as far as I can see it, has any obedience to those bishops. They don't have any Roman Catholic bishops. They're in schism. They have a non-Catholic sect that they've set up.
Yeah.
What more is there to say?
Yeah, I don't know that that's not even valid to ban the Novus Ordo in Latin. That's the Mass as Vatican II intended it, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're directly contradicting Vatican II, and, well, everybody is in the Novus Ordo, because it said Latin is to be maintained. But it's not. So what's that tell you? The Novus Ordo is a fraud, even against the standards of Vatican II, which are really low standards. The Novus Ordo is a complete fraud and a joke.
Where's Latin maintained? In our imagination? I don't know. It's like, come on, bishops. Like, you can't even, I mean, it's pathetic. You can't even claim to be loyal to Vatican. I don't know. Like I said, no words.
No words.
Getting back to the Syracuse bishop, Bishop Douglas Lucia, 58 years old, so he'll be around for a while. And
almost 20 years he'll be there, unless he gets kicked out.
Well, who knows?
Hopefully he doesn't. It's an insignificant place. He'll fly under the radar. Plus, I think one thing that really motivates him is there's an SSPX priory in town. And it's a funny thing. When the SSPX is around, boy, bishops really stay on good behavior, and they're really friendly to the traditional Latin Mass. SSPX should just send out guys to every diocese and hang out. If you go and visit, celebrate a Mass once in a while in a barn or whatever, and then every bishop would be like,
"Oh, I really do love the Latin Mass. Just don't go to those bad SSPX guys."
They would get they would, as I said it before, they'd get their mind right real fast if there was an SSPX guy nearby.
Yeah, we've seen it happen.
It happens all the time. Like, every time that SSPX shows up in a diocese, the bishop gets his mind right and starts allowing the traditional Latin Mass. So, again, we have completely different like the schism. In one diocese, the traditional worship of the Roman Catholic Church is considered a good to be cultivated. That's Syracuse. In another diocese, the traditional worship of the Roman Catholic Church is considered an evil that ought to be uprooted. Again, these are not the same Catholic Church. So Syracuse is in conformity with Catholic tradition, at least as far as allowing the Latin Mass, and the bishop is celebrating it. And the whole country of Costa Rica is in schism from the Catholic Church. So, but is anybody going to say that besides me, an insignificant guy on a YouTube? That's it. Nobody. But I have to say it. Maybe somebody else will get the idea. Maybe Schneider or Mueller or Burke or something. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and how about Cardinal Burke? He survived the virus, and hopefully he'll come out firing.
Like Dan Burke. Remember Dan Burke, not Cardinal Burke? Dan Burke got the virus, came out and said he realized communion in the hand was of the devil, and came out straight up, said it. The Novus Ordo is a train wreck. He said, we're suffering because of all these liturgical abuses around the Novus Ordo. So maybe Cardinal Burke is going to come out of this coma, and he's going to be like based Burke. And he'll be sleeping in a Capomania, and he'll only celebrate the old Mass. And he'll go, if anybody sticks their dirty paw out to receive Holy Communion, he'll whack them with a crozier. Maybe he's gonna go. Maybe he's gonna go whack Bergoglio with a crozier. He's gonna grab him with that hook, and he's gonna like pull Bergoglio out of the Vatican, and throw him off the wall, get him out of there.
Yeah, and another thing Dan Burke mentioned was that altar girls were demonic. The idea of altar girls was demonic. And when he said that, I was like, this is so radical, but I love it.
It's radical for the Novus Ordo. It's right. I probably wouldn't have even said altar girls are demonic, but if he said it, if he said it, it's more based than I am. So I say I believe it. I always love radicals because the word radical means at the root, and what are we talking about? Well, the root of Catholicism. So the altar girl actually strikes at the root, which is the vocation of the priesthood and the clerical state being reserved to men. So yes, the altar girl is diabolical, and I think that's also the female priest and deaconette and lectorate and whatever, all these other things, that's all diabolical too. But that's what's going. That's where the nervous disorder is heading, is towards an all female. It's like the Episcopalians. You won't find a man there. If you are, he's over 70 or 80. It's all women.
Or he identifies. Never mind.
So to wrap up this segment, Brett pointed out some other things as far as where this schism is. You have some dioceses that are doing rainbow blessings and rainbow ministries. Others aren't. Two different doctrines. You have some places that are real virusy, others not. And this is a question I'll ask you at the end of this, or you can comment on it when we get to the end of this segment. Some dioceses are doing communion for the divorced and remarried, giving out annulments to anybody who's still breathing. Some dioceses are doing communion for Protestants, others not. Again, you can see that the Catholic Church has already schismed into two branches. There's two. You have the liberal branch, which is aligned to the world, and then the actual Catholic Church, which is aligned to Jesus Christ and the tradition. But for some reason, people think that they're just crossing over or whatever. You owe obedience to Tomato Supich, and you get your faculties from him. He's outside. From what I see, Tomato Supich is outside the Catholic Church because of his heresies. And he's in schism from the Catholic Church because he's separating the church between true Catholicism and this modernism. So my question for you, do you know if there were any dioceses that didn't shut down and anywhere in the world that didn't shut down because of the virus?
I don't know about the world. I would think there would be, but I can't confirm that. But I think there probably could be a few places that didn't shut down.
Maybe Tanzania.
I don't know though. My only perspective is North America.
We need to find that out. If there's any viewers, please comment on that. I bet you could find some place really remote, like
yes,
maybe even not so remote, someplace in Africa. Maybe Kazakhstan never shut down. Actually, that's something to consider. Schneider and his boss probably would have said no.
Well, because they have like an off-road rally there, and I think they still have that throughout all of the shutdowns and everything, because it's so remote that you're not near anyone.
Yeah, there's hardly any. Kazakhstan's pretty big. I don't know how many people are there, but
it's big, but no one lives there.
Yeah, it's sort of almost like Canada, really big, and like nobody lives there.
Well, even more extreme. But
okay, even more than that.
But another point with schism is I go across the sea to about 12-hour time difference to China.
Yeah.
That's one of the largest examples of a very visible schism, where you have the Chinese Patriotic Church that is supposedly in conformity with Rome, and how many bishops have been appointed by the Chinese government at this point?
And they're pro popular. I don't know if it's been 5 or so, but they're pro communism, pro abortion, pro population control.
Yeah, I mean, they're just basically just puppets of the Chinese government, but they're recognized by Rome. So, you know, I don't know. I don't have any sources in China, but is the underground church? I would assume they still exist. I mean, there's talk of those priests being persecuted, who are the underground churches. Bishop Vincent Guo-jin, I believe, is someone that Brett likes to follow, and he's been kind of beaten down by the Chinese government. But no, I mean that's a very visible form of schism there, and they're in communion, supposedly in communion with Rome.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was one thing I thought of, you know, before the show started was, you know, our Catholic brethren in China.
Yeah, and if you could look at a Baltimore Catechism, I have one over there, but I'm not going to try to flip through it. It talks about, you know, the Catholic Church is one, holy, Catholic, and apostolic, and it's one in terms of its doctrine. Well, again, we don't have one doctrine anymore in the mainstream Catholic Church. So, again, the schism is here, but these guys are too scared to start talking about it. These are guys, we're talking about men who just go and play dress up. On Sundays, they put on dress up clothes. They go out and do this mass thing, of course, when it's not dangerous, because the virus comes first. And then they go out there and they say things that make people feel good about themselves. And then they collect a ton of money. And if anybody gets too serious, if anybody takes this thing too seriously by wanting to mass in Latin or criticizing the rainbow agenda or speaking out against the jab and worrying about aborted babies, if they get too froggy, then you're out. You're going to go get the Father Altman treatment, or you'll get laicized. And yet people still had to pretend that these guys are part of the church. Anyway, I don't have anything more to say about that. It's absolutely ridiculous. Do you want to? Yeah. Let's move on and talk about this. The people have probably seen this. Bishop Zubik, nicknamed the French Kisser, from Pittsburgh. He has a ban. He issued a ban on the private Latin masses. So even the secrecy of your own home with nobody around, you're not allowed to pray the traditional Latin Mass. Why? Because it's Catholic. Catholicism is apparently banned in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was shocked to see this, actually. Dr. Peter Kwasniewski wrote about this, and
it was in 1 Peter 5, right?
1 Peter 5, yeah, and I have that in the video description if you want to read it for yourself. Let's see here. With the promulgation of Traditionis Custodes, priests no longer have the general permission for faculties to celebrate the Eucharist or sacraments. According to the Roman Missal of 1962, not even in private. Instead, they must be expressly.
He didn't say anything about the pre-55 Missal, so they still have faculties for that one.
I guess. Let's see. Instead, they must be expressly given the faculty to do so by their local diocesan bishop. Furthermore, the Holy Father has made it clear that permission for the celebration of the Eucharist according to the Roman Missal of 1962 is not meant to be for the personal devotion of any particular priest. Rather, it is only to be given for the benefit of groups of faithful. Once again, this faculty will not be granted to priests who request permission to celebrate privately according to the Roman Missal of 1962. So that's...
Again, didn't say anything about the Missal pre-62, like from 1954, so that's okay.
I guess. Yeah, but that's... And there was a letter from Zubik to his priests, so I don't really know.
Does he have any priests left?
He does. he does, but not
for
very
now
many.
He does, but let's wait until we see whatever the reaction there is to this crazy edict.
Yeah, so I wanted to I wanted to do a little bit of research into the statistics of the Diocese of Pittsburgh because I am familiar with the both of us are somewhat familiar with the region of Pittsburgh. It's it's a unique city because of the bridges, the rivers, and the really confusing highways.
Yeah.
If any of you viewers have ever driven in Pittsburgh, it's not an experience that you necessarily are excited to repeat. It's much more fun to be a passenger, but then you have to help navigate.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not so exciting. But anyway, the city of Pittsburgh is also unique because steel was a big industry in Pittsburgh, and it was shut down a number of years ago. And so the population of the actual city, I did a little bit of research. In 1970, it was the highest in the city. Now, that's not necessarily counting the suburbs, but the city's population has declined ever since the 70s, and it's kind of been like a graph, like a little up and down, with 1970 still the highest number of people that lived in there, so that's 50 years ago. And so you can see how, with the decline of the population, the number of lay people would also decline. I mean, generally, if you're following like consistent population analysis or whatever, all things considered, but we're not factoring in the Vatican II effect. But anyway, that obviously the population, the lay people, there's a tendency for them to decrease in the number of priests. But let me just find. I have another article linked in the description. Oh, and this is behind a paywall. Oh no.
Well, I could tell you that on the Facebook, where I saw some discussion from this Peter Kwasniewski, and somebody pointed out Pittsburgh is down to 150 active diocesans, but they also have some religious there. There's some Benedictines, there's some Capuchins, I think, maybe other flavors of Franciscans, but they're down to 150 priests. I think they used to have like over 300. And again, they're always having retirements, and they've clustered so many parishes. You have these clusters of multiple buildings with multiple priests, and they just like go and drive around and say masses at these places.
Okay, so I did find it. I was able to get around the paywall. So this is a 2007 article, but it gives you a perspective. So it's talking about how the Diocese of Pittsburgh sells churches. And it said 9 churches will officially close September 8th, which is, I'm assuming, 2007. And so between the in 1994, 38 parishes closed in 1994 alone.
Wow.
They were closing since the mid-'80s when the local steel industry collapsed. It said almost 250,000 people left the city, and so they were selling some churches. Now, one was sold, and it's now a bar. It's called the Church Brew Works in Lawrenceville, and I've actually been to another one, former Catholic church. It's called Mr. Small's Theater. I went to actually a Christian music concert. That was the most smoke I've ever inhaled in my life, because they have it's an indoor. They converted it into a concert venue. It's at Mr. Small's Theater in Millvale, and the floor is concrete, and so you're allowed to smoke indoors. And so that was pretty bad, and I don't ever want to go back, even if there is a band that I enjoy that's playing there. So, but no, those are 2 examples there of the churches that they've closed, and there's going to be more to come. I mean,
well, St. James, the SSPX chapel there in Pittsburgh, that was a former diocesan that they sold off to an art dealer, and then he in turn sold it to SSPX. And apparently, I have to talk to a lawyer or something about this who does real estate, but it said that Pittsburgh had put clauses in a lot of these bill of sales about and a clause in the deed that said it couldn't be used as, a church, a Catholic church or whatever. I don't know how that works. I mean, once you sell the thing, how do you retain rights? Maybe I don't understand how you can retain any rights once you sell the thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's even legal. I just, it could be like a handshake agreement, but then say like someone, they either die or whatever, they hand it off to one of their relatives or something.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
I mean, okay, maybe you can sell it to the next guy and you can make him sign a contract that says you're not going to use this for a church, but then he can turn around and sell it for $1 to his friend or buddy or whatever who happens to be some other, denomination or SSPX or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah, but going back to Bishop Zubik, like, we were saying about how many priests he had. So I don't know how many of them say the old mass or how many of them are traditional. I'm not familiar with the statistics there, but we're talking about Supich even losing like 5% of his priests.
Yeah.
Well, Pittsburgh losing 5 priests. If even 5 priests were lost, if you look at their diocesan structure, the cluster parishes, there's like 7 churches covered by 3 priests.
Yeah.
So if you lose, if you lose even 5 priests who just say this isn't going to work for me, I'm going to try to join a religious order or something.
Yeah.
Then you'll have 7 churches covered by 2 priests.
Yeah.
We'll throw in a permanent deacon for you to help you out. Like read the gospel or something.
Well, I mean,
right,
a permo can go and be an administrator and sign checks legally according to canon law. He can be in charge of a parish, but they need actual priests to say masses, because masses is what people have to go to. Nobody cares about deacons. In the Roman Church, I had one priest tell me the deacons were like potted plants and completely useless. They don't do anything and they just cause trouble. So in that sense, he said they're worse than potted plants. It's like some kind of potted plant that sends out tentacles and encumbers everything. So this priest hated deacons.
Well, and I do for the Pittsburgh diocese, they did have St. Boniface was the Latin Mass parish before. Was it 2015?
I think so. Sure. Yeah, that's when they got the institute in.
Well, but you should look at the architecture of the church. I drove past it just recently, and it's a very beautiful church. And so
St. Boniface?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like a larger church with a few golden domes, and it almost looks sort of Eastern, but
it is. It's a Byzantine architecture. That was a Benedictine German parish. And it's on the national historical list or whatever, and it prevents it from being torn down.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
because I thought, well, what has become of it now that the institute took over?
There's still some cluster or something there, I believe.
It has 1 mass on Sundays.
Okay, that's your cluster. See, the whole thing is there was a neighborhood where the highway is. There was a neighborhood there actually.
Oh,
and when they built a German neighborhood through there, and then when they built the highway, then they destroyed the whole neighborhood. Because go read "Slaughter of Cities" by E. Michael Jones. The WASPs intentionally put highways through Catholic neighborhoods to destroy them because they hate Catholics. Well, they still do.
It's too bad that the Institute didn't get that church instead of the one that they have. The one they have is probably larger, like a little larger because it can hold a few more people. Maybe
it's hard to tell. But not. I mean, the one that they have now is their own. Holy Wisdom, which is what St. Boniface was called. I don't know. They shared it with a Novus Ordo congregation, and that created some controversy. Again, you got 2 religions trying to use the same church. It doesn't work well. There's always going to be conflict.
Well, you know what's funny about the Institute's parish now? It used to be called John the 23rd Parish.
Oh, yeah, that went away really fast.
I found that to be very ironic.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard that when they moved, they told somebody to take that picture of John the 23rd and lose it. They said we don't want that anymore. But thank God they changed the name from John the 23rd to Precious Blood. I mean, it's actually a traditional name. And but anyway, Precious Blood. But by the way, that's what Zubik said. He goes, "Oh yeah, if you want the old religion, go to Precious Blood." So and then he said, if you actually want to go to Precious Blood and get sacraments, you have to register for Precious Blood, which means everybody in Pittsburgh who has a pulse and is under 60 years old is going to be registering at Precious Blood
or St. James.
Those are your alternatives. That's it. If you want Roman Catholicism in Pittsburgh, then go to those 2 churches. Now, of course, there's a ton of Byzantines that are there, Ukrainians in Pittsburgh. So at some point in time, we have to talk about that, about we've stressed that before. the Byzantines, Ukrainians, and most of these Eastern rites, you can go to those. Get out of the Novus Ordo, please. Get out and go to either a traditional Latin Mass or one of the Eastern rites. You'll be much happier, and you'll get actual real Catholicism there.
Yeah, as a side note, I was under the impression that you can get sacraments like baptism. You can get, is that true? Can you get your baby baptized in the Eastern Rite?
Yeah, I believe so. You'll still be a Roman, but yeah, you can get an Eastern Rite baptism. I think you need just the permission slip from whoever your Roman pastor is. But he'll give that. He'll give that to a Byzantine. He will also give it. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to give it to Institute of Christ the King. If you register there, then they become your pastors. But if you happen to be in a place nearby where there's no traditional Roman churches like Institute of Christ the King, FSSP, whatever, then go to your Byzantine and have them do baptism, have them do confirmation, whatever. I mean, they really don't do First Communion, but because they have First Communion when you get baptized and chrismated. But hey, you'll get your kid, he'll get baptized, chrismated, and receive First Holy Communion all on the same day, and you're set. And he'll still be a Roman because your whatever your rite is like what your parents are. So you can get baptized in the Byzantine. I'm like 95% sure if you get baptized in the Byzantine, you're still a Roman.
I don't know, but worst comes to worst, go ahead and switch rights. I mean, what harm is it going to do for you?
Well, the thing is, if you switch, you can never switch back. So maybe it's better to just wait until Bergoglio dies or whatever.
Yeah, see what you can get away with.
You don't need to switch. The only reason you need to switch is to get become a priest. That's it. It doesn't make any difference for anything else, I don't think.
Which might be a topic for another show.
Probably that is another show. Yeah. Tell me when you're ready to do you want to talk about the Fraternity of St. Peter and the other traditionalist societies getting summoned to Rome?
Yes, and I guess this is, I don't want to say it's top secret, but it doesn't seem to me that the FSSP, like most of the FSSP, are aware of what will exactly happen. That they're like, is it the superiors? I mean, I think Taylor Marshall was the only one who, I didn't read any articles about anyone else sharing the story, so I think Taylor Marshall was the only one.
I think I heard it through the grapevine from a source, a credible source, and then I think I read about it the next day in the Taylor Marshall, but actually it was somebody that posted it on the Traditionis Custodes Facebook, and they had a photograph of something that their fraternity priest, chaplain, pastor, whatever he is, he passed out, and it was a call to prayer that said, do this 54-day novena or something like that. And I won't tell you what my source, the information that he gave me. I'll only give you what's there in public. But I think the writing's on the wall that they're going to go there and they're going to Fraternity of St. Peter, Institute of Christ the King, Institute of the Good Shepherd. They're going to get called to Rome and they're going to get whacked. They're probably going to be forced to say the new mass, at least part-time. And that's a violation of the whole reason that those orders exist. So that's basically you're telling them, die. I just want you to drink this hemlock poison like Socrates and just die. And we'll find out here who believes in tradition and who believes in sola obedientia. This is something that needed to happen a long time ago, is Fraternity of St. Peter, quo vadis, Institute of Christ the King, quo vadis. Well, Institute of the Good Shepherd, we know where they're at. Like, nobody in Institute of Good Shepherd is going to accept the new mass. They're all going back to SSPX. I can guarantee it. They only came away from SSPX like 10 years ago. They'll go right back and be happy or whatever they'll do. Just kind of go independent or whatever.
So do you want to, because I hadn't heard of Institute of the Good Shepherd until Taylor Marshall mentioned them. I did a little Wikipedia research myself about them. But apparently there's only one mission in the United States of Institute of Good Shepherd in Monterey, California.
Yeah,
Is
that
true?
sounds about right. But they're much stronger in France. They have a house in like Colombia, and then they have a house in Rome, the Casa San Clemente, which I watched all the time during the virus because they're the boat. Institute of the Good Shepherd, I think, is probably the most traddy religious order that has a canonical status.
Wow.
They use the pre-55 missal every day. They actually have not the nicest vestments that they can get. They try to have a nice, really nice liturgy. They have written into their constitutions that they're exclusively using the old rite. They have written in there that they're allowed to criticize Vatican II. That's in their constitutions. Yes.
Wow.
And so they're the strongest. And they negotiated this because they were smart. I heard about this from a religious, and he said Institute of Good Shepherd is the best. They're the strongest because they negotiated their position of strength. And so, you know, here, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that they will compromise? Like, do you think that the Institute or the FSSP will compromise?
This is what I can tell you. If the FSSP gets blown up, then I'm going to say half of their priests and seminarians will turn to SSPX, SSPV, the Sanborns, the Williamsons, whatever. I think half of the total amount of priests and seminarians are gonna get out, and especially amongst the older ones. The younger ones, the word that I hear is the younger ones are much more indoctrinated into sola obedientia. And these are guys who, for them, the old mass is just like cheese on a hamburger. They don't really think that it's anything better than the new mass. I mean, it's just a personal preference for them. And they think that the obedience is the highest good. They're really not into Vatican II or anything like that. So that's the word that I hear about the younger ones. Some of the seminarians and some of the younger priests will, as I have it written down here, they'll get their minds right with sola obedientia to the Novus Ordo, and they'll learn to love Big Bergoglio and stay in communion with him. That's my prediction.
That's bizarre. Like, that would be hard for me to believe that they would do.
I believe it because I know some fraternity priests and I don't have a high opinion of them. They're sola obediencias and they don't actually love the old liturgy. They don't like it. They don't like the liturgy. They rush through these low masses. Some of them hate pre-55 stuff because for them it's all sola obedientia. I don't have a lot of respect for some fraternity priests. Now, on the other hand, there's some really good ones. Father Jackson's a really good one. Father Berg is a really good one. You can smell the good ones, okay? Here is your litmus test. Do they do and love the pre-55 liturgy? Then they are a good Fraternity of St. Peter priest. If they love the 62 and they just like, meh, bada bada bing, it's all over. They're going to accept Big Berkey as their Lord and personal Savior, and they're going to go with the schism. They're going to get the jab, and they're going to say the new Mass. I'm just sorry, not sorry, but that's what's going to happen to these frat guys. A lot of them are going to sell out.
Wow, that's quite the contrast.
Hot take. Yeah, I mean, look, they started the order in order to be faithful to the Pope, but also keep the old Mass. They thought that they could do both, but the modernists are clearly teaching them that the old Mass is a new religion. It's not compatible with the Novus Ordo, which they were criticized. They accepted the Novus Ordo. One of these must die. And the Fraternity of St. Peter is going to be split. Now, Institute of Christ the King, that's a different question. I really don't know. I heard that Institute of Christ the King concelebrates, at least at the Holy Thursday. So that's
Wednesday Chrism Mass.
Yeah.
Maybe it is Holy Thursday.
Well, it's supposed to be, but in the Novus Ordo, they transferred it to like Monday, whatever. It depends on the diocese.
Well, and some of them concelebrate. Some of the priests will concelebrate.
Some,
they have permission to do so.
probably from their superiors.
If they, I think it's kind of like if they want to.
Yeah, and I whatever, take that whatever you will, but
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know what they're going to do. I can tell you that they love the liturgy a lot more than Fraternity of St. Peter. And then I already mentioned Institute of Good Shepherd. It's like 99 out of 100 of them is not going along. They're not going to play ball with Big Bergie, and they're going to be taking the Lefebvre path. But look, amen, amen, I say to you, no man ever died for the Novus Ordo Missae, but many men will have died and will die for the Mass of the Ages. And that's what we're going to see here, is we're going to see some of these priests take a suspension or go join SSPX or SSP, whatever the letter is, resistance, whatever. They're gonna stick with the game plan, which is the true Catholic faith.
Hey, get your event halls, get your barn chapels ready. The SSPX needs more churches because there's going to be an influx of priests.
Yeah, it'll be great.
This happens.
They have no priests now. I mean, we've been looking at this. We looked at all the chapels in Pennsylvania. Like, none of them have a priest living there. They're all driving from out of state.
Part of that is their constitution, that they're required to live in community. This is a discussion here because the FSSP and the Institute also have that written into their constitutions, but the SSPX strictly follows that, and so they have their communities, and then they go to these mission churches on weekends.
Yeah.
And so they can drive like 5 hours, 6 hours, some of these places, but it is, so I don't know that it's necessarily like. I'm sure they would like to have a community at every mission, but
yeah, they just don't have enough priests. That's the problem.
Yeah. So.
I mean, if you look at fraternity, I think fraternity has more. It seems like fraternity has more priests than them in America. Plus, you have Institute of Christ the King.
Yeah.
Plus, in America, there's a ton of diocesans who say the Latin Mass. Did you see that poll? Did you see the poll taken by Return to Tradition today on YouTube? And he asked, where do you attend a traditional Latin Mass? And it was about something like 25% was fraternity. About 15% was Institute of Christ the King. 40% was diocesan, and 10% was other, which I guess is religious order or sedevacantist or something like that. No, sedevacantist was, SSPX was, I think, another checkbox, and I think that was 10%, maybe 15%. Okay. So it's mostly diocesan, and Fraternity of St. Peter gets most of your Latin Mass attendance in America. But if we see this thing turn south, which I predict, you're going to see a lot more SSPXs, and hopefully, believe me, if there's an influx into SSPX, there would be an influx of money, because I have a lot of money that I'm prepared to give to SSPX if they decide to build chapels near me. Okay, and expand. So this is my promise to SSPX. Let's make a deal. I've got money if you've got sacraments, but it's not simony. Okay, it's not a direct one-for-one trade.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I see in the comments. Yeah.
Let's go through something.
So cynical.
I haven't even gotten cynical yet. I'm a glad trad. I've been putting on a happy face in this show. But no, you're starting to see me getting fed up with this spineless, wet noodleness that exists even amongst the traditionalist Fraternity of St. Peter. SSP or not SSPX, Institute of Christ the King. You know why? Because they're trying to not make waves and get kicked out of their dioceses. But look, we went through the virus where they shut everything down.
Yeah.
Rome is telegraphing to us that they don't have the faith. They are telling us. Yeah. What more does Bergoglio need to do to tell you he doesn't have the faith? He already went to a Pachamama service. He already published the Amoris Laetitia. He already confessed Lutheranism sola fide. He's already banning the traditional Latin Mass and saying that it belongs to a completely different church than we have already. That's just 5 things off the top of my head that the guy has done. There's no Catholic God. Who does he meet with? He ignored the dubia. All this stuff. What more does he have to do to prove that he is not a Catholic? Even
Well,
Vigano has said. We have a non-Catholic pope.
yeah, and that's a good point because, and I just wonder how many of these like institute priests or FSSP, they kind of had their minds changed a little bit with the shutdowns because now the local bishop, obedience to the bishop. Well, that's great, like you can have your sacraments because the bishop brought you in, but then they shut everything down.
Yeah, it looks
so
good
now
on
you have
paper.
to comply with the bishop, and a lot of them didn't want to.
Yeah.
But they went along with it anyway because they're like, well, we will get shut down. If we don't shut down, then we will eventually get shut down.
Well, this brings
quickly.
up the priests. This is something that should happen. Every priest who lost his Latin Mass, because of Traditionis Custodes, should just resign his pastorship and go say private Mass and make the bishop pay him for it and allow people to come in. A private Mass where people show up, and if the bishop suspends you or whatever, then just go independent or join the Sanborns or SSPX Resistance or SSPV or something like that. Because look, I've said this before. I think I said this before. I am 100% convinced that Bergoglio will be anathematized, and probably like 90% sure he'll be declared an anti-pope, if even that's a different thing from now. So knowing that, and knowing that this guy is a heretic on multiple occasions, I'm telling you that it is a bold and I think an act of martyrdom to take the suspension to resist the errors of Bergoglio and this false sect of the mainstream church. So if there's any priests listening, if you're backed into the corner and you've lost your Latin Mass and it's just down to Novus Ordos or whatever, I'm going to say, I'm not commanding you, but pray about this and take the suspension and just say, I'm done. I'm only going to say the traditional Latin Mass, like a Father Michael Rodriguez, and let the chips fall where it may.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as you don't have Zubik as your bishop, you can probably say your private Mass.
And if you have Zubik, let him
Mass.
suspend you. Let him suspend you. You'll be in good company. There's good priests who are basically canceled in Pittsburgh right now.
Well, and he can't prevent you from saying a private Mass like by yourself, can he?
Well, I don't know. He said you can't. So does he have secret police or something?
Yeah, like if you're saying the old Mass in your room, like how's he gonna know and what's he gonna do about it? Like that doesn't. I don't think that's.
Maybe he's like Satan, and he can go. He's in league with the devil, so he's got demons who float about, and they can see what priests are doing.
I don't know. I think Bishop Zubik, to me, whenever I read about this, I was shocked because to me he seems like a guy who just kind of goes along and he's like, oh government, what do you want us to do next? And then because like he took a lot of heat from the Pennsylvania grand jury report in 2019. Yeah. Like there were a lot of priests from his diocese that were in that report.
It was like half the diocese was in the report.
Yeah. I mean,
Pittsburgh was and is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Whirl was there. Whirl and Wright. Yeah. Those are both bad guys.
Well, I was shocked. But then here's an ironic situation is his auxiliary bishop, Bishop William Walterscheid, says the old Mass.
Says the old Mass.
Said it on several occasions.
And loves it. He loves the old Mass.
Yeah. I mean, and he's done confirmations in the old rite. Like, I mean, this guy's trash.
I wonder what Walterscheid is going to do.
Well,
he should just go out. Walterscheid should just go out and start celebrating the old Mass like all the time, all over the place.
Well, is he under? He is a bishop, so is he under obedience to Zubik? Like, how does that work?
That I don't know. I mean, I think on paper he's bound to obey the diocesan bishop, but bishops don't throw around their weight to other bishops because they'll just get punched in the nose.
Well, and I know that he's collaborated on old masses with Bishop Gaynor from Harrisburg.
Yeah, they're friends.
And so can he go to Harrisburg and say the old Mass whenever like everyone in his diocese is like?
Yeah,
does he need permission from Zubik to go to Harrisburg and say an old Mass? Like,
not really. No.
I don't know. So these auxiliary bishops, they have a little bit more free reign.
Every bishop has more free reign. Does Rome do anything to bishops? I mean, yeah, they sometimes call guys in. They do a vos estis if they're acting up. I mean, there was that bishop that was retired in Spain because he said some stuff against the rainbows. But they said that he resigned. The Pope asked him for his resignation. But I mean, the Pope can ask you to do whatever, and if you can say no, this is a harm to the church. So no, I'm not resigning. I think a bishop can do whatever he wants if he judges it to be. If we're in a crisis situation, which this is the definition of a crisis, then canon law is almost completely out the window, and some obedience to a doubtful authority is no obedience at all, especially when they're dubious commands. So you have a dubious authority, you have evil commands. There is no obedience to stop saying the old mass right now. As a matter of fact, it's disobedience to obey these cancellations and whatnot.
All right. Do you have anything else?
Well, I just wanted to go through. Let's catch up on some of these comments now. Take a look at Patty McGill, who made a comment about. He said Eastern churches are not the answer. Can you get that comment up there? Was it 738? There it is.
Yeah, he says no. Patty.
And we got all these Patties. He's probably from Ireland too. We have everybody in Ireland loves this show. I love it. Thank you for watching. Maybe he's from Canada. I don't know. But Patty McGill says, no, Eastern churches are not the answer. We are Latins, and we need to fight inside the Latin churches. Yes, I'm going to say yes and no. Okay. Yes, we are Latins, and we need to fight for our heritage, and that means fight to the death. But if you need to go to the Byzantine or Ukrainian or whatever for, let's just call them spiritual supplies or a refresher. I mean, sacraments. Okay. If you have to drive 2 hours to FSSP, whatever, fraternity of whoever, but you have a Byzantine a half hour, 45 minutes away, well then, you'll probably go split some time there. And plus there's good people at the Byzantine. Like, okay, John, you go to the Byzantine sometimes. We have Peter the Byzantine who goes to the Byzantine, well, every Sunday. And so you can make friends there. And, another thing that I was thinking about is, okay, this is a whole nother topic. Imagine, let's say you believe that the Roman Church is in schism from the Catholic Church. And they're in schism, Pope Paul VI or somebody went into schism, and you begin to doubt the new sacramental rites that were invented after Vatican II because they're against the Council of Trent. Well, you can just go over to the Byzantine churches, which have not changed any of their sacramental rites. They've been confirmed by the Catholic Church. And so these Byzantine churches have, without question, valid sacraments and holy orders. So you can go over there and confess and receive Holy Communion and get last rites and all this. If you begin to question the Novus Ordo rites, well, then what are you going to do? You got to go find somebody who's SSPX, SSPV resistance or whatever, because everybody you're dealing with, diocesan or fraternity or Institute of Christ the King, for the most part, those guys are all tainted by the new rites of ordination, well, at least Episcopal consecration, which happens to be the one that people question the most. So they could, if you begin to question that, and I'm not saying anybody is, but if you do question that, then you have to avoid your mainstreams, your Fraternity of St. Peter and your Institute of Christ the King. So you've got to go Byzantines or SSP, whomever, or Sedevacantists, whatever flavor. Let's move along here. Chris Arman, 745. This is going to wake up a lot of Catholics to why SSPX has a new understanding. Absolutely. Look, if I had any crow here, I would eat it. I said after Sumorum Pontificum that the SSPX had no reason to exist anymore. I said it, and I believed it. I didn't realize how mendacious, how lying the Vatican regime could be. I never thought that we would get such an evil clown as a Bergoglio and his henchmen, and I was going to say in the White House, and the Vatican. These guys are destroyers, and they've double crossed everybody. People like went into a religious vocation thinking they would be able to say the traditional Latin Mass exclusively, or they bought property near fraternity parish. And like Bergoglio is blowing that up. Somebody should sue him because he's ruining lives.
Well, I mean, the Vatican has some property they'd be willing to sell you.
Probably, yeah. They got some nice apartments or whatever. Call Cardinal
I'm talking
Becciu.
about Becciu's property.
Yeah, Becciu. Yeah.
Anyway,
here's Patty McGill, 747 Institute of Good Shepherd have their own website for Monterey Church. That I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I responded and said, because I was trying to do some research there. If anyone can find it, post it in the comments. But I couldn't find a whole lot, but it says they have a mission in Monterey, California on the Wikipedia page, which is so reliable. So
yeah, and they used to have
as a source.
They used to have I watched some of their masses on YouTube during the virus, but I didn't think that they were that great. Institute of the Good, Casa San Clemente was a lot better. Here's Patty from 750. If they do the pre-55 liturgy, that would be great if they created more locations in the United States and the world. I think he's here referring to SSPX, but maybe he's talking. No, I think he's talking about Institute of the Good Shepherd. Yeah, I wish they would. Everybody should join Institute of the Good Shepherd. They're top notch. Unfortunately, they just have so few guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Eric Newman, 755.
Yeah. This is an interesting comment.
I drive an hour to get to the closest TLM diocese. I'm definitely prepared for the 3-hour drive to make it to the SSPX every Sunday.
Well, here's the thing, Eric. If this does go down and they get banned, then you network with those SSPX people and see about bringing them closer to where you live.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a possibility. And what we were talking about, the Diocese of Pittsburgh, how they had a bunch of churches shut down. There's going to be church buildings available, but even if you can book an event hall or get someone with some money and get a bunch of people with some money, pull it together, because there's not a lot of places in the United States at this point, well, before the motu proprio, where you had to drive a significant distance to find a Latin Mass.
Yeah.
Most of it. Now, if you're talking about like Midwest and you live on a farm in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest, you might have to drive a few hours. But if you're like near population centers, there should be a Latin Mass available to you somewhere within an hour, hour and a half, or worst case, 2 hours.
I think so, yeah.
In most places in the United States.
I think SSPX, I've done the research on near where we live, John. Like I said, they don't even have anybody living in the whole state of Pennsylvania. They drive in. But I do think that if we all lose our Latin Masses, then I'm pretty sure SSPX would be willing to send a guy. They've got all day to say these Sunday Masses. So they can say one in one city at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and then they drive 2 or 3 hours and then they do a 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. and then they drive a couple more hours and do a noon Mass, and then a couple more hours and do a 3 p.m. and then a couple more hours and do a 6 p.m. Let's make it happen, SSPX. We need you. And this is only temporary until you get reinforcements, because more priests will join you if things get that bad. But we're counting on you. And we're also counting on the resistance, the SSPVs, the Sanborns, all these people too. That if your conscience allows you, go to those guys as well. I mean, again, when we're talking about an emergency situation where the Roman Rite has been attacked and completely destroyed, who cares about canonical status or who's pope or whatever? I mean, I already said. I'm like 100% sure Bergoglio is going to be anathematized. So, if I go to some Mass where he's denounced or nobody recognizes him, okay, so what? That's going to be everybody like 50 years from now. So to me, it doesn't matter.
Do you want to get to Heather Whitehead?
Well, Patty McGill, 757.
Irish supremacy.
Irish supremacy, yes. So everybody watches this program in Ireland.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, apparently Catholicism is really dying there, so we're trying to bring you something. Slow roasted marshmallow right underneath him.
Okay.
Question: what about the canons? We have an Augustinian monastery near us. Careful not to call it a parish.
Now, is that Brother Martin's
Could be.
group?
Could be, because he's an Augustinian.
Okay. Yeah, Father John Stone. I think he's in that group. Yeah, I see them on Twitter sometimes.
Yeah, Brother Martin, who's on the rundown all the time.
Yeah, and he always gets criticized on Twitter. People make fun of him. They call him a fake seminarian or something. I don't know.
Who cares about it? If everybody on Twitter is stupid.
Well,
except you and Parent Ryan. Those are like some of the only smart people on Twitter.
Yeah, Parent Ryan. He's having a lot of fun.
Patty McGill right underneath that. But those people are wrong. Novus Ordo is valid. Church did not die after Vatican II. I'm not sure who you're referring to. I mean, I kind of went over this thing. If you're talking about like some flavors set of the contests, that's an open question. But I don't know if anybody who questions whether Novus Ordo is or is not valid, according to St. Thomas Aquinas. At least it has the form and the matter. Whether the intentions there depends on the priest. Church did not die after Vatican II. Well, that's the whole point of the set of a contest position, or anybody's position is, the church didn't die, and nobody says that it died. And it's precisely the point that the church can't have an infected head. And that's why they say that that Bergoglio is not the Pope. Let's go on here. Heather at 8:00. It feels more Catholic to be loyal than the traditional Latin Mass and Francis. Yes. Now, sometimes your feelings can deceive you, but the faith is what forms you. And ask yourself, does the traditional Latin Mass hand on the Catholic faith? Yes, undoubtedly. Does Francis hand on the Catholic faith? No, undoubtedly he doesn't. So you pick the one that is true Catholicism there. If you have to make a choice, then I know which one you're going to pick. 801.
Franciscan comment.
Yeah, why did what is the Franciscan Friar channel? I don't know what that is. Do you know what the Franciscan Friar channel?
I think I've seen it. I think I've seen it before. I forget what it's called. But they say that the SSPX is Do
they say it's a cult?
I don't know. I think they say you shouldn't go there.
Well, if you shouldn't go there, then why did Pope Francis give them extraordinary faculties?
Yeah.
Are you saying Pope Francis is encouraged? Again, if Pope Francis, I don't know what to think. Either he's not Pope or he is Pope. Okay, if he's not Pope, then don't listen to Catholicism. But if he is Pope, he told you it's okay to go to SSPX. But if somebody's telling you who claims to believe in Pope Francis that SSPX is a cult, then somehow they have to get wrapped around their head that Pope Francis commanded people that it's okay to go to a cult. If that's the case, then you have to say he's not Pope. So I just created a dilemma that disproves the stupidity of that objection. Everywhere you look, Francis is fake. Everything that I just proved the dilemma that Francis is not possible to be Pope because he's teaching heresy and then he's also telling people it's okay to go to a cult.
Well, we can call that the church militant paradox.
It is the church militant paradox, but whatever. We'll talk about them some other time.
Yeah, which is in the next comment, but that's
Patty 803 say it's a cult. SSPX mentality. Do you have that one? 803, yeah. Anti-SS, very fellow anti. I dispute that 100%. SSPX is very much pro ordinary Catholic in the pew. They used to tell people not to go to Mass if they can't find a Latin Mass. Lots of abuses covered. That's the church militant argument about that. I'm not going to get into that. There's a good answer for why they tell people not to go to the new Mass if they can't find a Latin Mass. Watch their videos. I can't say everybody should do that, but you follow your conscience.
Yeah.
804.
Getting a lot of comments in here.
Well, let's get to it. Oh, we got all night, and I want to talk about SSPX because it's fun. 804.
I got to wrap up pretty soon.
Okay, well, we'll finish everything up here. We're almost to the end. You think you're the only valid church, justify allowing predator priests? Well, whatever with that. I don't believe that. Maybe I don't believe that they allowed predator priests. They certainly don't think that they're the only valid church. E. Michael Jones knows a lot about history and culture, but he knows nothing about liturgy in the SSPX. I mean, the guy will tell you that communion in the hand is okay. He tells you that SSPX is in schism when that's contradicted by Catholic bishops. So, you decide who you want to believe. Adrian, everything is the J's fault. Yeah, I don't know. Yes and no. I mean, in some sense he's right. In some sense he's wrong. That's a whole nother show there. Let's move on here. Slow roasted marshmallow, 808. I like Father Jenkins' SSPV show, What Catholics Believe on YouTube. They do everything pre-55, no modernist nonsense. I will tell you that I've been binging on the Father Jenkins, What Catholics Believe, and I've been binging on True Restoration, Sanborn, and Chicada. I have to get caught up on this stuff. We'll talk about that another time. Patty McMullen likes Father Jenkins. Adrian Yanez, I attend SSPX. Always find them welcoming. I mean, somebody that we know just went to SSPX this weekend and had a good time. And I told you I went to SSPX once, and I said it's no different than any diocesan landmass. Here's Patty with something else about E. Michael Jones. Again, E. Michael Jones debated. E. Michael Jones is an Opus Dei operative. He hates the traditional Latin Mass, even when it was allowed. He had a debate with. What is that? That Michael Davies. He had a debate with Michael Davies back in the 80s about the traditional Latin Mass. He got destroyed. He was proven wrong by Summorum Pontificum. Don't listen to anything that E. Michael Jones talks about when it comes to the liturgy or the SSPX. If he's talking about the JQ, if he's talking about slaughter of cities or music or culture, I trust him. But because he takes the Opus Dei money, I don't believe him when it comes to SSPX or the traditional Latin Mass. Nobody who grew up in the good old days and likes the Novus Ordo, I cannot trust you when you start talking about liturgy. I don't trust you. Okay, so that's the end of the thing here, right, John? Do you wanted to finish up, right?
Yeah, let's wrap it up here.
Maybe if everybody's interested in this SSPX thing, maybe we should have a big show, SSPX extravaganza sometime. I don't know.
Yeah, just have that and just respond to viewer comments in the live
Everybody
chat
can call in and make whatever accusations they want and say, like, the SSPX ate my homework. The SSPX, whatever.
I have sources close to the sources of church militant
that say Opus
about SSPX.
Opus Dei. I heard Opus Dei has albino assassin monks, and they're threatening E. Michael Jones's family and forcing him to say bad stuff about SSPX. Also, they have the secret evidence that proves that Bergoglio purchased the papacy. But of course, we'll have to hear like some mainstreamers who say it's okay to purchase the papacy and it's not at all invalid or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, where Peter is, where Pachamama is. It's perfectly in line with Vatican II.
To purchase the papacy. Actually, Francis would be against it because it's capitalistic.
All right, well, on that note, donate to our non-existent Patreon. Donate $10,000 a month. That'll help us out a lot because then we'll be able to buy new cars and drive all over the country to Latin masses. So,
Yeah.
anyway, this has been a good show. Thank you guys for tuning in. See a lot of viewers there. Thank you so much for watching. We are the laity.
And we will not be silent.